What is going on, everybody? So today I decided to do something a little different, and that is to plead with developers and gaming platforms. Out of any mobile title I've picked up on the Android or iPhone, there's been one series that has been incredibly special to me. And it was specifically on iOS. And you guessed it, that series is Infinity Blade. Along with 3 titles, Infinity Blade also had a book series, or just a mini book series. And I actually read all of the books. I find the world of Infinity Blade incredibly interesting. The first Infinity Blade came out in 2010. So that was shortly after the first Dark Souls and Demon Souls. And needless to say, Infinity Blade took a lot of inspiration from that game because the mechanics usually revolved around dodging and striking and hitting the enemy's weak point. And usually the enemies in Infinity Blade are very versatile, especially in the later game or secret locations that you find in the first Infinity Blade alone. And I've been a huge fan of the series for so long, especially after Infinity Blade 3. When Apple announced the new iPhone processor and what it's capable of, the only game they showed in that showcase was Infinity Blade 3 and showed how magnificent the title looked in handheld. And there were other titles and demonstrations like the Unreal Palace or Kingdom, whichever they called it. You basically just walk around this AAA kingdom and castle, which looked extremely real, and it pretty much used the same exact engine as Infinity Blade games, which was, of course, the Unreal Engine. And I think the game was made by a developing team called Chair. And somehow I actually knew someone that knew one of the team members in Chair. So it was kind of cool that I was such a huge fan of Infinity Blade and actually knew somebody who knew someone in that developing team. Because for most of my life, I've been surrounded by artists and people that have made animations in movies, had their own galleries. So it was inevitable that I would eventually know someone that had affiliation to a video game developing team that I was a fan of. And Chair did an incredibly great job with the Infinity Blade series. The fact that you have a world of princes, kings, demons made from a base sci-fi background is an amazing idea. And usually the books focused on the sci-fi aspect when they were introducing newer characters that told the origin story of the Infinity Blade world and exactly how these princes, kings, and demons came about. So needless to say, I found the Infinity Blade world to be intoxicating, and I didn't really need to leave it behind. That was the first AAA title that I played on the go all the time, reading all the books and completely surrounding myself with just a digital-only game on a mobile device. And this was way before the Nintendo Switch came out. And I remember putting on a song from like Sum 41 and playing a 5-hour session of Infinity Blade 1, 2, or 3. I kept all 3 on my iPhone. Well, I try to keep all 3 on my iPhone because they were quite big for mobile games. And I think they were about $20 each. And then they had the triple pack, which is about $30 to $40. And the main reason I mentioned this series is not only to gravitate more people to it, but it was very important to me. That was one of the first games that I actually paid attention to the book and got really enthralled in the story and world. But suddenly, Infinity Blade just disappeared from the App Store. And I tried looking for emulators and all kinds of solutions to get that game back. But even though I bought it, I still can't play it on my current iPhone. I would probably need to own an iPhone 5 just to play that game again. But I looked through my download and purchase history and I just couldn't find it at all. And that game meant a lot to me. It was an amazing source of entertainment for a long time on my iPhone. And I would pretty much play it every time I take the train. And I would get to my destination in no time because it was just such an entertaining experience. But yeah, it's nowhere to be found. I tried looking through the App Store. You search Infinity Blade, you just see a bunch of strategy guides. You don't actually see the main app anywhere. And I just wanted to make it known that Infinity Blade is a widely loved series, and they should definitely bring it back if they get the chance, especially since iPhone 15 Pro is focusing on gaming and AAA experiences. They should bring back Infinity Blade, remaster it, do all kinds of stuff to make it playable now. It's the perfect iPhone game with one of the best stories I've experienced on any phone app. And I think it's fair to say that since I have an iPhone now, if they relaunch the Infinity Blade Trilogy on the iPhone, I would pick it up right away. It would be such a godsend from the God King himself to get a series as awesome as Infinity Blade back on the iPhone. I think there has been one petition for Infinity Blade. But I'm not sure why this idea hasn't taken off, since Infinity Blade was an iPhone exclusive title. It might have been because some developers in Chair owned rights to it, so as soon as that studio evaporated, so did Infinity Blade. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I would really love to see a remastered Infinity Blade on current iPhone devices and iPads alike. I remember playing Infinity Blade on an iPad, but honestly the game really shined on the iPhone itself because you could bring this whole massive adventure with you in your pocket, as well as the book. I could probably start a petition shortly after making this video because Infinity Blade was just incredible. The most underrated and underappreciated series in any mobile device. It was the first AAA game on a mobile device that really showed that mobile games could have a bright and positive future. But as soon as Infinity Blade ended, it seemed like the aspirations and passions for mobile games disappeared as well. Now you just have a bunch of games that tell you, if you take this elixir, you pay $5 for it. It lasts you 5 days and you can play as many games as possible. Some kind of bullcrap microtransaction hell, as usual, has plagued the mobile game industry. And I thought for a second that Infinity Blade would make mobile games different and actually escalate as a stepping stone or a stepping chair, if I may, to a brighter future with mobile games in general. But it seems as soon as Infinity Blade ended, so did my interest with mobile games as well. I don't know if there's any hope for mobile games after Infinity Blade, but I know as soon as Infinity Blade comes back, there most likely will be a venue for better and more creative AAA titles, as well as original AAA titles for the iPhone. After Infinity Blade, there was a bunch of Infinity Blade clones, like that Spartan game or Gladiator title, and they tried to emulate the same feeling that Infinity Blade nailed down so well. But what really got me was the story and lore behind every battle in the world of Infinity Blade. And maybe there's no chance that it will come back, but I'm making this video in hopes that it'll reach somebody that possibly I knew through someone else to maybe talk to Apple into relaunching the Infinity Blade Trilogy. Because now it just seems like the series was an early experiment for the iPhone and something that they tried but ultimately failed. But for me, it's not over. I'm still trying to emulate those games any way I can because I own the right to them. And for some reason, I can't access them even though I bought them on the iPhone. I think I at least deserve my money back or to play them in some other type of way. There are a lot of tutorials online and a lot of BS websites saying that you can download them and play them on your PC, but I haven't found a trustworthy, applicable source yet. I just really hope that someday this series will come back because I'm sure there are a lot of other people that this series means a lot to. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a good one. Later.